Well, these are certainly uncertain times, unprecedented times in major American sports. Major League Baseball today, Orel and Alanna obviously announcing that they're pushing back the start of the regular season at least 2 weeks. No more spring training games as well. Orel, your initial reaction to what we've seen?
Well, so far today, what has really happened is an awful lot of waiting for official news. A lot of rumors around the locker room, around camp of what could happen. Everybody checking Twitter, everybody talking to friends, everybody outside of this arena, friends and family are asking for facts here, and the players at that time had no idea. But now that we have official news that we're 2 weeks delayed, that Dodger camp will stay open for guys to voluntarily come in, and it seems like Dave Roberts thinks that they're mostly are all going to come in. So we do have baseball, we don't have fans, we do still have a waiting game because, as we know already, in the last couple of days, anything can change in any moment.
And you had said that Dave Roberts does anticipate that the majority of his players will stay here. And you guys as baseball players are nothing if you are not routine-oriented. How important is that, understanding the consequences of what's going on right now, but how important is it for these guys to maintain that routine and prepare for an opening day just 2 weeks delayed?
Yeah, the interesting thing is timing it up with how you're going to be ready for an opening day that could be 2 weeks delayed, could be something else. So it's that nebulous feeling. And so it's very hard to have that intensity because there's a date you kind of ramp up for. And I think what they're thinking right now in talking to the players and especially the pitchers is maintaining their health, maintaining the endurance they have, but backing off the intensity a little bit, but not so far that when they restart the intensity and restart going after it again, that they could possibly hurt themselves, that they could possibly have lost too much, that they won't be ready again. So it's that gray area of working out, and this is where it really counts on being a professional. You have to be so professional, because if you just take 3-4 days off as a pitcher, lose the ballistic stretch in your arm, all of a sudden say, okay, I'm coming back, they've made some secure dates and the virus has now calmed down and they've figured out how to deal with it. People are allowed now to come back into stadiums and we're allowed to have games again, and you just automatically go from, oh my God, I can't wait to play, and the adrenaline hits you and the ballistic stretch on the arm. A lot of arm injuries come early in seasons, and this would be a second early part of a season.
From a scheduling standpoint, Dave Roberts sounded awfully optimistic that the goal was still to get 162 games in, so that's going to push the season back even more. But if you get to 2 weeks, then it becomes 4 weeks, then it becomes 6 weeks, or how do you see them having to react to such a mess like that?
Well, you have to move the schedule in chunks. You can't just all of a sudden push it back. You've got traveling secretaries, you've got stadium commitments, you've got all the employees and everything. So when you say these 2 weeks have been removed, a lot of times you just pick that up and put it at the end, but you can't just push the thing back like a timeline. It's really hard logistically, anything from concerts or other uses of stadiums and hotels and which team is coming in and what the fan bought a ticket for as far as the team they're going to play. They might have a specific player they bought the ticket for. You can't do that to fans either.
John, I'm not certain about you in your career as a sports journalist, but certainly in my time covering not only Major League Baseball, but all the 4 major sports, I've never had to deal with anything like this. Of course, a virus that's affecting us worldwide, but also the logistics of what we're going to do when we have to kind of change a season. Do you have a situation in this, Orel, whether it was a strike season or a time in your career where your schedule and your plan was really disrupted?
Yeah, strikes and lockouts, of course, and that happened throughout my career. I played in the big leagues for 17 years, so that happened a few times. The most recent one, of course, everyone will know, 94, when the World Series was canceled, and then into the 95 spring training. Everything got condensed, from spring training to the signing season of free agents to all the things. And again, it's that really hard position. And I think the virus, as far as a player and where you feel, when a player and a union strikes, you feel like you're empowered because you're making the action. Mm-hmm. When there's a lockout from ownership, you feel like something is being forced on you. And that's kind of what this virus is about. We're not in control of anything. So it's very odd to not be in control. You're talking about a group of a lot of A-type personality people that really want to work, they want to achieve, they want success for themselves, their family, their organization, their city. And now all of a sudden, it's kind of taken away from them. Is very, very hard. It does remind me of 94.
Well, this is a situation where nobody is in control, right? It's not the players, it's not the ownership group, it's nobody. Everyone is being affected negatively by this. And it'll be interesting to see from a player perspective too, guys, like what their feelings are. Do they stay? Do they go? I know this is a group of guys, and John, you've covered them for 7 years as well, that they're going to want to stay together.
I would think so. And Dave Roberts talked about that earlier. We were listening to him downstairs. It's such a great professional group. These will be optional workouts that they're going to have in the coming days. And he expects to have everybody here showing up, getting their work in. And Orel, you mentioned they're going to dial back the intensity on a lot of these workouts, but I imagine most of the guys are still going to be here. They're going to want to get their work in because at the end of the day, they know there's going to be a season at some point. We just don't know when that season's going to start right now.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers, I mean, not to look for who has advantages in this, but because the Dodgers are expected to be a championship team, because the Dodgers have veterans, because the Dodger organization is such a cohesive unit because of what Andrew Friedman and Dave Roberts have put together, you really are looking at a unit that, as all 30 teams decide to get ready and there is a schedule put in front of them, in the middle of that gray area, I think this club is very much prepared, just as more than any club, to be ready and to be ready to go and to stay competitive.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel a vulnerability as a professional athlete? Because we've seen the 2 players from the Utah Jazz who have now tested positive for coronavirus. You're exposed to so many different people that you don't know that are outside of your circle, and you're put in situations like this.
I'm not an expert, but just thinking about basketball and hockey, there's a lot of contact there. There's a lot of fluid exchange. So I know that those guys are probably at a lot more risk than baseball. In baseball, you know, the ball goes to the pitcher. A lot of different people have touched it. You do have a tendency to lick your fingers or do things like that. You high-fiving. There are parts of the game that you can really examine and go, okay, there's some vulnerable parts of this. And I know you related to like the fans and autographs. That's another vulnerable part for this. I think everything needs to be inspected. But when you start involving any minutia of contact possibilities, you've got to be on the conservative side, and I think that's what baseball's doing, and that's what all sports are doing.
Well, there's a lot of vulnerability, certainly. There's a lot of unknown and uncharted territory. We are learning things minute by minute, hour by hour here, and thank you for taking the time to do this. It's a very strange circumstance, but we will find out more, and as we find out, we'll let you guys know as well. But as of right now, spring training games have been suspended, and the start of the regular season delayed by at least 2 weeks, guys.